Jennie. How you been?
Hi, how you doing? Good. Thanks.
You doing good? Yeah,
Yep.
been a
Thank
pretty
you.
good
It's
day.
rainy here, but we're doing good.
Oh, where are you located at?
I'm in New York. I'm
Oh,
on Long
okay.
Island.
We're in Las Vegas, so it's like a little different. We have that
Yeah.
whole heat wave going on and everything else, so it's been fun.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you're wearing a sweater. Like we've got a hurricane coming up the coast and it's so
Yeah.
hot and muggy.
Oh, yeah.
I can imagine wearing a sweater right now, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's cold in my house. That's why I always wear sweaters throughout the whole year because my husband's always like, he loves the cold. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
freezing around him.
That's great.
So, what would you like to share about your son and his autism journey and your journey, of course, with him?
Right. So yeah, I was excited to come on and just share like my journey's been, I would say, kind of, if it's different from a lot of people, but we only found out about autism a couple years ago,
Mhm.
and my son is now 18. So it was like raising a child, not even realizing it was autism.
Yeah.
But there was definitely something different and unique, temperament wise, and this stubborn kind of
Yes.
rigidity that diagnosis to it.
Mhm.
So it just seemed like expectations and the performance were not matching. But for Ed, like a lot of his peers were in the same challenges, same bucket kind of thing. And then just as they got older, it was kind of like, they kept doing this and my kid's like over here. Like, and
Yeah.
so kind of like, I have an older daughter, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like I would think this is not the same experience. And everybody's their own individual and all that, but it was just got to be like problematic. And we started searching for answers kind of late, I think. A lot of kids get kind of caught
Yeah.
early, but we did have early childhood intervention in nursery school,
Hmm.
but no one would ever say the word autism. And no one would ever, they would just say, the speech delay. There was like, I can look back and say, why couldn't you guys have told me this like so much sooner?
Yeah.
Because I think there's plenty of opportunity to, but it's interesting. And then to throw it on top, and this is, I think, controversial for some doctors if you aren't experiencing it. The PDA, pathological demand avoidance, is a definite distinct thing that is right now under the autism umbrella. I
Yeah.
don't know if it will always be. I would assume so because it seems to be just a characteristic. A lot of typical challenges with autism are there,
Mhm.
but then there's some things like there's no problem with direct eye contact, or I understand he would have been classified as Asperger's, except they did away with that. I don't know. I So with all this changing, you're just looking basically at like functionally what we need to have happen.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then how do we need to do it so that it will happen?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's, I mean, why diagnosis is helpful in some instances, but in some instances, it just doesn't matter what you want to call it. This is the challenge. And like, how do I get help with this? Right. So he outgrew a lot of the, what help is available, at least in our area, help is available earlier. By the time we knew what was going on, it was no longer an option. And honestly, I don't know if it would have been all that helpful because academically, he's very, I don't want to say some genius or anything. It's average intelligence. He's quite well. He's always done quite well academically. So that's not really the challenge. And the challenge is like, without studying. This is just naturally bright kind of kid.
Yeah.
But socially, not so much.
Hmm.
So it's been a challenge to have friends, keep friends, family members, having them understand behaviors and stuff, make sense of things.
Yeah.
That's where, so personal life is really challenging. Now that he's done with school, high school, it's kind of like, now what? Because I don't think going to a regular 4-year college for more, high school, at least, unless you're in a specialized program, it's all kind of college prep.
Mhm.
And they did see that, oh, artistic bend. So he did go part-time to another school for art,
Oh, okay.
which was amazing. And that's more vocationally oriented. So that's kind of the pathway we're going to take for college.
Okay.
It looks again to be self-sufficient. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're trying.
Yeah. I mean, you got to just take it as it comes, right? He'll get there. He's already been, and everything else. He's kind of going through, basically, I would say like life, typical, and so I'm sure he'll adapt pretty well with, college and skills and.
I mean, there's a lot of self-care that doesn't happen
Mhm.
without a whole lot of negotiating
Yeah.
and cajoling and arguing. And so I don't know. I'm like left to his own devices. I don't know.
Mhm. Did you want to explain to the audience like what PDA actually means? Because I don't think
Yeah,
we know about that. I didn't
I
know.
agree that it's not really widely known. And it's basically so the way that I think people want it to be understood is it's about personal autonomy and having your own personal, autonomous responses to things. Like if I want to respond to that, then I don't.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what the social norms are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I have to do something,
Mhm.
no, I'm not going to be forced to do things. There's a demand. There's
Yeah.
some kind of, it's like almost subconsciously uh, identifying it as a demand. I
Mhm.
have to do this. And then the brain just goes, no.
Mhm.
So it's not the same as like oppositional defiance where we see a big outburst of defiance.
Mhm.
This is more like, yeah, that lying,
Yeah, I
do
mean,
it because he wants to. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to. They, it's not lying to be. It's really like trying to finagle out of things.
mhm.
Oh, I meant to. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, but it shows up like not doing that you said you do, and so then sometimes you suffer consequences for that. Like, oh, you didn't do. Let's say, I don't know, like you didn't study for the test, and you said you would, and now you're not going to do well on the test, but then you did. It was like, and so brush your teeth. Yeah, I'll brush my teeth. Doesn't brush his teeth.
Mhm.
And then you go to the dentist, and then it's like, oh, your teeth, you need to really do a better job. And it's like, he doesn't really care what other people, the thing with, so PDA, like when it comes to authority, they don't register authority
Oh,
quite the same. In fact, they feel that they are as much in authority as anyone else is.
mhm.
So there's this interesting, like, just because you're the adult,
Yeah.
it means nothing to him, literally. Like,
Wow.
even a little kid, it was like, so, I'd be like, well, I'm your mom, so. And I learned it was a thing. It was like, oh, which makes it hard when you have like the teachers in charge. Why? This
Yeah.
is about me. Why would they be in charge of me?
Hmm.
There's really this, I mean, I say weird, but like, it's kind of weird. Like,
Yeah.
this personal autonomy thing is like really take it to the hilt, where
Mhm.
I will not be told what to do. I will only do what I want to do. And it's not even that. Sometimes they want to do something, but their brain's like, oh, so if I want to read that book,
Mhm.
then I have to read the book. And now all of a sudden it's a demand. And then, so they own the book, keep the book, walk around with the book. Have you
Yeah.
read the book yet? Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet. And they're not going to because they have to. And
Mhm.
so it's avoiding demands. And this can look like, even this is what worries me, is like, oh, I want apple juice, right? So get yourself some apple juice.
Yeah.
Let the road go on. Yeah. And he just goes upstairs, he'll do without
Wow.
instead of having to do it himself. And
Okay.
so, yeah, and if I think to myself, well, he needs to have, hydration or some juice. So I will like get the juice. And then it was like, I'm not your slave. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not here to serve you.
Yeah, exactly.
And pleasure. Like it off like that. And he's like, oh no, it's okay. You don't have to. It's
Huh.
like, you're gonna not have the apple juice.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I was so worried for a while. Like he would just, I mean, if like coming to dinner, like just all these things, like just not happen. And then I attended a PDA conference online that was through PDANorthAmerica.com.
Yeah.
And this thing, and they said, when you have a demand shared, apple juice, my apple juice. Okay, why don't you get the apple juice out of the refrigerator? I'll get the cup.
Yeah.
He's like, he'll get the apple
Yeah.
juice, he'll give it to me, I'll pour it, I'll give it back to him. It's then the demand is lessened. It becomes less demanding seeming. And so everything becomes a negotiation and a shared, if you're into like, so even if you have to take a shower and take your dirty clothes downstairs,
Mhm.
it becomes, okay, I'll take the shower, you take my dirty clothes downstairs. it's like, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna live on your own?
Yeah, that is,
You
yeah,
t-
that's true.
So I know, because otherwise it's just not gonna happen.
Mhm.
It just doesn't happen. It's a no.
Yeah, wow. So it's like constant
Mhm.
negotiating and trying to, like, it's a give and take kind of thing. Like, you do one thing and he'll do the next.
And they said that's the solution. Like, that's the solution. And I was listening to one woman said for her kid to brush their teeth,
Mhm.
she has to go get the toothbrush, put the toothpaste on the this is for a child who's like 24 or something,
Mhm.
23 or 24. Put the toothbrush on the toothpaste, run out wherever they are in the house, they will then brush their teeth.
Yeah, wow.
And like when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, I have it that
Yeah.
because that seems worse than what how we were like, well, maybe what I'm dealing with isn't that bad. But it's tough, it's a thing. And then to have the doctor say, oh, this PDA doesn't really exist. It's just still autism. It's not a special kind. It's like, okay, lived experience
Hmm.
can make distinction between it is, I see why it's under the autism spectrum
Yeah.
umbrella. I see it as being a little different than a lot of other people's experience. And yet, when you talk to people about PDA specifically, we all have it's the same shared experience.
Yeah. Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think my son has some of it, because ever since he was little, I always had to negotiate with him with anything. I mean, that's why I always call him my little negotiator, because he's always like, in order to get him to do certain things, I always had to negotiate, and like I said, it's always like a give and take, because like I have to do certain things with him, like say the toothbrush, I have to put the toothpaste and get it wet for him and everything else, and then he'll brush his teeth. And just certain things, like even with cooking, like, oh well, I'll do this part if you do this part, and then that's how we kind of like we do that.
Yeah. Well, I used to think he would grow up and be a lawyer because of the negotiation skills. I was like, this is since real little, kind of navigated that. And everything was was cut in deals. I'll do
Mhm.
this if you do this, and I'll do that and whatever. And I did never realize that what we were doing was lessening the anxiety around performance.
Yeah,
I just noted together
that is
until they
true.
said it's basically you're just lessening the anxiety. And one day he said to me, like, I said, you gotta get out of bed and turn off your air conditioner. It's freezing in here.
Yeah.
He said, I know, I'm trying to gather up the courage to do it. And I was like,
Wow.
wow, he's experiencing it as he's under threat. He's anxious, he's feeling subconsciously, that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism is on, and it's preventing him from doing the very thing that would eliminate the problem.
Yeah. Hmm.
Thirsty, get a glass of water.
Yeah.
That's the solution. Can't do the solution. So that's what makes it kind of worrying about, well, we're talking about ever being able to be self-sufficient, because if you can't do for yourself if there's a demand, even if you want to do it, it's a tough
Yeah.
that's tough.
Wow. Yeah, I would understand how that would be pretty worrisome, because like maybe eventually, not saying he'll grow out of it, but maybe eventually he can bring out more of the courage to actually want to do these things, because he knows that, oh, well, maybe if I actually start doing this, I've noticed that it helps my solution, the problem goes away or something like that. Maybe hopefully he'll
I know,
connect those
it's like,
pieces together.
yeah, it sounds like has to, but it isn't about learning it. He knows,
Mhm.
he just can't. That, in executive functioning, where we have motivation and emotional management are all interconnected. So it does seem to be tying in those centers of the brain.
Mhm.
And then the amygdala, just when it's on survival mode, it just shuts that part down.
Yeah.
But it seemed to be a little like, I only know because I'm I'm an ADHD coach, and that's ADHD, right?
Yeah.
But this seems to be a little more
Mhm.
to it. Like there's a little, with the autism is a little extra. And I know there's a lot overlap and stuff. And I have ADHD. So,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing some of those same kind of mental brain functions being affected. It's interesting.
Interesting. Wow. I know these kids, right? They're just like, it's just amazing how just how they're all their minds are just so different, and just like, wow, we just like, just amazing. It's like that, it's like a spectrum. I mean, every child is different, every person is different. It's just amazing how we all regulate our minds, our bodies, and everything else. I mean, just
Yeah, and one solution is not like some big fix.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own solution to their own thing. And it's, I think more and more people are looking to like podcasts like yours, like to find solutions within the communities versus the professionals telling them, not that I'm against professionals telling me anything, but I found it like when they're not even identifying it, well, that's not a thing. I'm like, well, then I have no choice but to figure it out on my own.
Yeah, exactly. Do your research and talk to people. Yeah. I mean, that's what my whole podcast
Mhm.
is about, just want to help,
Yes.
the people can relate and you find out like, oh, well, my child is, or my, sibling or whoever, whoever has someone on the spectrum or special needs or disabilities, whatnot. Just like they can just go, oh, okay, so
Yeah.
that answers that question. And oh, okay, so that, it just opens up a light bulb for them and like, oh, that's what it is. And some hope
Yeah.
this will help. Just like PDA, I had never even heard of that. I never knew
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. Where I found the thing was
Yeah.
PDANorthAmerica.com because I mean, I have no affiliation with them or anything. I'm just like, that's once I found what I was finding was that online there was people in England. It's almost a kind of community over there, and they talk about it, and it's identified as a real thing. And they have lots of different, organizations or communities that support this. Like it's identified and treated as a thing. And over here, there's only like a handful, and that's the one that was giving a free presentation. I was like, oh, let me sign up for that.
Yeah.
And or maybe I paid for it, but not a lot. It was because it was online. And that just opened my eyes so much. I'm like, oh, anybody that has, I mean, check them out. At least it's something. It's a start over here in North America because I can't even believe it's even a thing. And yet over in Europe, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Different. Yeah. That is.
I don't know why we're slow to adopt an understanding here, but like I said, if you live it, how old is yours? You're doing the toothpaste?
Yeah, 13. He's 13.
Okay. Even at 13, you're starting to say to yourself, like, aren't we getting to where you can do this yourself kind of
Yes.
thing? Like when they're little, you don't,
Think about
and
it.
a lot of times it's quicker to do it. Oh, let me just do it and
Yeah.
give it. And you don't realize that
Mm-hmm.
it's an issue,
Yeah.
until then they're like 18 and you're like, no, this is definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. I also asked you too, did you want to share like a proudest moment with your son? Since I know we're like,
Yes, I do, because it is one of the things that when we achieve certain milestones, a lot of times, like my friends, like they wouldn't understand that it's a big deal.
mhm,
But to have my son actually for college to look forward, just to identify, to see, envision, I don't know, it's not the big motivator, but at all to say what school he wanted to go to was the biggest deal on the planet
wow,
because normally has not been able to project himself into the future or
mhm,
see any future. And I'm not saying that there's a big idea in his head that he sees a whole future thing, but enough to be, even say of all different colleges, that's the one that I could see me doing well at because it's a creative college where the art
wow,
was
yeah,
like yes, he's seeing himself and he's thinking about himself in the
yeah,
future. That's huge. So I'm just so proud.
that's great. It's really, I mean,
Yeah,
just the littlest things can make us make the proudest, make us the proudest. I mean, that's what I love about this,
yeah.
is that every milestone is to be celebrated. I mean, even the smallest thing,
Thank you.
just want to make sure you can share it. So it's like something that, that we don't really chance to do a lot of times. And so I think it's great.
Thanks. Yeah, that was fun.
And also, do you want to introduce yourself everyone to the audience?
Oh,
Let them
I
know what you are.
I would like to I would people because I am an ADHD coach.
Mhm.
So people can if you have questions about ADHD, I know that it's a lot of people with autism. I mean, a lot of ADHD also. What is it? A lot of people with autism also have ADHD,
Yeah.
but not a lot of people with ADHD have autism.
Hmm.
But since
Okay.
you're talking to a lot of people with ADHD, with autism, and if they have ADHD and questions, you can email me at Jennie Friedman 2 at gmail.com. Or I do have a book, and I'm just going to show you guys. This is ADHD, a different hard drive. And it's specifically for people who don't have ADHD to understand it. So if you have like family members or you don't even understand it, and it's interesting because it's on Amazon.
Okay.
And I think it's like free if you have a Kindle or something. Like it's not expensive. But the reason I wrote it is because a lot of people don't understand it. It's a little confounding how you can be brilliant in some area and then you can't clean the house or just do the like, it's really hard to do more mundane stuff, right? So a lot of the reviews people have written, it turns out that a lot of people that read the book are actually people that do have ADHD themselves. And they say things like, I always knew I was different, but I didn't know how I was different. I had no idea that people's typical brains could do these things that my brain doesn't do, which I thought was interesting. So yeah, thank you for letting me, promote that. If it helps anybody who's got that additional issue going on, like there's absolutely a lot of overlap and with executive functioning, and just understanding it helps make the stigma go away. You don't say things like, what is wrong with you? Like, you don't say those things and you don't even think them anymore when you understand it's all brain functioning.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, so, people all think like, oh, what am I thinking? Why am I thinking that way? And so, I mean, it is good to like, also read books, do your research, of course, and just talk to people. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
you get
Yeah, it's thin. Like, it's not a big book.
that's great. I mean, that's great that you wrote a book and everything, and you're helping, with not with, well, you're actually helping with both the autism community and the ADHD. So I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it was interesting. I've been coaching ADHD now for, this is going on 10 years.
Wow.
Having a few of my clients have autism,
Mhm.
learning about it through them, having no idea that my own kid had it.
Wow.
Like, shows you, the invisible, the foundings, even when maybe I'm too close, I don't know. It's your own kid, you don't, they're perfect, so you don't see anything. But
Yes, that is true.
it's like, I can bring light to these invisible things just because they're real. Even the visible, they're real. The effects, we see the effects, and to help make life easier for them, for their loved ones, just seems to be kind of a labor of love too for me. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having me on here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for being my guest and for sharing your journey. I mean, great. I mean, it's always happy to hear everyone's journeys and how they all, how everyone is different, and just like everyone's walked their own little journey, their own little path. So it's great to hear everybody.
Yeah, no, you got a great show. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, it was great meeting you, and I mean, I'm sure we'll, because we're always, I'm always talking, connecting with others, and so it's great.
Right.
Great talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye.